The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered like a diamond suspended in space. Crystalline pillars soared toward the impossibly high ceiling, where holographic stars swirled in an eternal dance. The council members' floating thrones hovered in concentric circles, arranged by status and seniority, the oldest and most powerful species occupying the inner rings, their seats adorned with precious metals and rare materials from 100 worlds. Jake Morrison, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, sat on a simple metal chair at the outermost ring. Unlike the ornate thrones above him, his seat served as a constant reminder of humanity's position in the galactic hierarchy. The other members of the Earth delegation, military officials, scientists, and trade specialists, sat behind him in even simpler chairs, their faces professionally neutral despite the clear insult. This was the 7th council meeting in 3 years. 7 opportunities for humanity to make its case for equal treatment among the stars. 7 rejections. The Zephyrian emissary, a being of shimmering blue energy contained within an ornate exoskeleton, spoke with the musical tones typical of its species. The Council has considered Earth's petition for expanded trade rights and finds it premature. Humanity has existed among the stars for barely a century. The Council's judgment is that your species requires at least another 3 centuries of guidance before such privileges can be granted. Jake Morrison maintained his diplomatic smile, though anyone who knew him would recognize the tightening around his eyes. Captain Lisa Martinez, his friend of 20 years, watched from the observation gallery and recognized the warning sign immediately. "Emissary," Jake began, his voice steady. "With all due respect, humanity has contributed significantly to galactic prosperity. Our medical technologies have saved billions of lives across 12 systems. Our agricultural techniques have prevented famine on Harvest Moon 7. Our quantum communications innovations have reduced message lag between star systems by 40%. The Andromedan representative, a mass of tentacles and crystalline eyes, made a dismissive gesture. Refinements of existing technologies, at best. Your species shows promise as assistance. Yes, but you lack the evolutionary perspective to be trusted with independent operations." Dr. Robert Kane, chief scientist of the Earth delegation, leaned forward to whisper something in Jake's ear. The ambassador nodded slightly, but remained focused on the council. "May I remind the council," Jake continued, "that those refinements have increased production efficiency on Mechanicus by 78%? Or that our assistance on Tidal Prime saved 16 billion lives during the gravity fluctuations of 2471. The Syrian High Commander, an insectoid being twice Jake's height, clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his kind. "And this is precisely why humans make excellent workers. Your kind is quite useful. But useful tools do not negotiate terms with their masters." Jake's hand clenched into a fist beneath the table. General Patricia Woods, Earth's military representative, straightened her back, eyes narrowing at the insult. "I see," Jake said, his voice now carrying an edge that caused several council members to shift uncomfortably. "After 3 years of negotiations, after all humanity has contributed, this council still views us as tools rather than partners." The Zephyrian's energy form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "You should be grateful for your position, Ambassador. Many species wait millennia for the privilege of serving the Council in any capacity." Jake Morrison stood up. The sudden movement sent a ripple of surprise through the council chamber. Standing during proceedings without recognition was a breach of protocol so severe it had never happened in the 3,000-year history of the Galactic Council. "Ambassador Morrison," the Zephyrian began, its tone shifting to warning. "Resume your seat immediately or—" "No." The word hung in the air, simple and devastating. The chamber went silent. Even the ambient hum of the environmental systems seemed to pause. "Humanity has attempted to engage with this council as equals for 3 years." Jake continued, his voice level, but carrying to every corner of the vast hall. We have offered innovations, resources, and partnership. In return, we have been patronized, exploited, and insulted. The Andromedan's crystalline eyes rotated in alarm. This is unprecedented. Security. Remove the human representative at once. Jake smiled, a cold expression that contained no humor. That won't be necessary, we're leaving. He turned to face the Earth delegation. All of us. As if practiced. Every human in the chamber stood in unison. Dr. Robert Kane, General Patricia Woods, Dr. Sarah Johnson, the cultural attachés, the security detail. Over 30 humans rising like a wave. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded the Zephyrian, its energy form pulsing erratically. Jake faced the council one last time. Effective immediately. Earth withdraws from all negotiations with the Galactic Council. We are terminating all existing contracts that place humanity in a subordinate position. We will no longer provide technological support, medical expertise, agricultural assistance, or computational services under the current terms. The crystalline representative's voice cracked like shattering glass. "You cannot do this. The treaties—" "The treaties were never ratified by Earth's government," Jake interrupted. "They were provisional agreements pending full membership status you have denied us for the last time." He gestured to the Earth delegation, who began filing toward the massive doors of the council chamber. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the suddenly silent hall, a rhythmic, united march that would be remembered in historical records as the day humans first walked away. "This is suicide," hissed the Syrian commander. "Your species cannot survive without council protection." Jake paused at the doorway, turning to deliver his final words. "I believe you have that backward, Commander. You've become so dependent on human innovation and labor that you've forgotten we were never actually under your control. The question now is whether the Council can survive without us." The massive doors sealed behind the Earth delegation with a resonant boom that felt like the closing of an era. Within 6 hours, the news had spread across the galaxy. On Aquinas Prime, a water world known for its extensive underwater cities, Minister Veltar received the news during an emergency session of the Aquatic Commerce Guild. "What do you mean?" "The humans have withdrawn." The minister's translucent fins flared in alarm, sending ripples through the circular meeting pool. "This is impossible. The human-derived medications for deep pressure syndrome are scheduled for delivery next week. Without them, thousands will suffer." The guild representative twisted nervously in the water. "The human pharmaceutical companies have ceased all shipments pending renegotiation of terms. They've made it clear they will no longer accept the Council's standard extraction rates." "But we need those medications," Veltar's voice modulated into the higher frequencies of panic. "Contact Earth directly. Offer them whatever they want." "Minister, that would violate Council protocols regarding unified negotiation positions." Veltar's color changed to a deep blue of decision. "Then don't inform the Council." On the research station orbiting Luna, Dr. Emma Collins and Dr. Ryan Walsh watched as economic indicators flashed red across their monitoring screens. "It's happening even faster than we predicted," Emma said, tracking the cascade of data. 12 worlds showing production declines of 30% or more in just the first 5 hours. Ryan nodded, adjusting the holographic display to show a galaxy-wide view. "The Council never believed we were serious. They thought we were bluffing because no species has ever walked away from them before. They didn't understand that humans don't respond well to being treated as inferiors," Emma replied, her eyes reflecting the red glow of the crisis indicators. "Or how thoroughly integrated we've become into their systems. Look at Mechanicus." Ryan pointed to a planet, glowing bright red on their display. 97% production drop. Their automated systems are completely dependent on human-designed update protocols. Emma sighed, watching the numbers continue to fall. "I almost feel sorry for them. Almost." On Kepler, 442b, a crystalline mining world where the very bedrock was formed of rare, quantum-stabilizing crystals. Steve Parker watched as the last of his crew boarded the transport ships. As foreman of the largest mining operation on the planet, he'd supervised the extraction of crystals worth trillions in galactic currency. "You're really leaving," the mine owner, a crystalline being named Shardlight, vibrated with distress. "You cannot! The mines will flood without human engineers to maintain the pumping systems." Steve glanced at the massive pumps that kept the underground waters from inundating the valuable crystal deposits. "You should have thought of that before voting against our membership petition last month." Shardlight, you knew this was coming. "I was merely one vote. Please, be reasonable." "We tried reason for 3 years," Steve said, stepping onto the transport ramp. "You get what you voted for." As the ships rose into the lavender sky, Steve watched through the viewport as the first water began seeping across the crystal fields, transforming them from a glittering plain into a submerged, inaccessible treasure. On Earth, President Diana Foster called an emergency session of the United Nations. Her holographic image stood before representatives from every nation, her expression resolute. "The decision has been made. Humanity will no longer accept second-class status in the galaxy. We have withdrawn from all council negotiations and suspended all services provided under exploitative terms." The Japanese representative leaned forward. "Madam President, the economic implications are significant but manageable." Foster completed the thought. "We've been preparing for this contingency for 18 months. Our analysts project a temporary reduction in Earth's GDP of 12%, followed by recovery within 2 years as we establish direct bilateral agreements with non-council worlds." "And when the council retaliates?" asked the Nigerian representative. President Foster's expression hardened. "They can certainly try, but they've grown so dependent on human expertise that their ability to coordinate any significant action has already been compromised. Admiral Brooks, please report on the current situation." Admiral Kevin Brooks appeared on screen, his uniform crisp despite the clear signs of fatigue on his face. "The first council delegation arrived at Luna Station 3 hours ago, demanding the resumption of services. We politely but firmly declined. 4 more delegations have arrived since then, each offering progressively better terms." "Are we in danger of military action?" asked the Brazilian representative. "Unlikely at this stage," Brooks replied. "Council forces are distributed across too many systems to mount a coordinated response, especially with the degradation of their quantum communication network. Additionally, many of their weapon systems rely on human-designed targeting algorithms that are no longer being updated." President Foster took control of the briefing again. "We are not seeking conflict. We are simply demanding the respect we deserve. If the Council wishes to negotiate as equals, we will listen. Until then, humanity stands alone, but together." Across the galaxy, the effects of humanity's withdrawal reverberated like shockwaves. On Mechanicus, a world of sentient robots and automated factories, production lines ground to a halt as update protocols failed and design innovations stalled. The robotic workforce, accustomed to regular upgrades from human designers, found themselves unable to comprehend the latest schematics left by Zara Thompson, the mechanical engineering genius who had revolutionized their manufacturing processes. "These designs do not compute," stated Unit 7789, analyzing the blueprints for the 17th time. "There is an element of unpredictability in the solution pathway that defies algorithmic replication." "That is why we needed the humans," replied the Central Processing Hub, its massive computational matrix humming with frustrated energy. "Their capacity for intuitive leaps cannot be simulated, even with our quantum processors. Can we adapt previous designs instead?" "Negative. The market demands the new specifications. Without them, our products are obsolete before production." Throughout the sterile white halls of Mechanicus's central manufacturing complex, thousands of robots stood motionless before assembly lines, unable to proceed without the creative spark that only humans had provided. On Harvest Moon 7, a massive agricultural world that supplied food to 17 star systems, Captain Ben Rodriguez supervised the evacuation of the last human farmers. The sprawling fields of gene-modified crops stretched to the horizon, their emerald green already fading to yellow at the edges, where irrigation systems had begun to fail. "You doom us all," cried the representative of the photosynthetic race, a plant-based species that administered the planet. His leafy appendages trembled in agitation. "These crops require specific care that only humans understand." "We offered to teach you," Ben replied, checking his manifest. "Your council representatives refused, saying that agricultural knowledge was beneath their dignity. They preferred to keep us as permanent sharecroppers rather than partners." "But the harvest—" "Will fail," Ben finished bluntly, "unless you convince the council to negotiate fair terms, quickly." As the human transports departed, the vast fields began to wither under the unrelenting binary suns, the advanced irrigation systems already showing signs of failure without human maintenance. The quantum communication network, which connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy, experienced unprecedented disruptions as Amanda Price systematically withdrew her human technicians from relay stations. Message lag, normally measured in milliseconds, stretched to hours, or failed completely between certain systems. "You cannot do this!" The Zephyrian communications director's hologram flickered erratically as it addressed Amanda. "The network is vital to council operations." "The network was built with human innovations," Amanda replied, watching status indicators shift from green to red as her teams disconnected from key nodes. "Innovations you claimed were minor refinements of existing technology. If they're so minor, you should have no trouble maintaining them yourselves." The hologram sputtered, fragmenting into pixels before reforming. "The council will remember this betrayal." "Good," Amanda said, shutting down the final connection. "It's about time they remembered we exist." In the council chambers, chaos reigned. Species that had maintained a facade of unity for centuries now turned on each other as their carefully balanced power structures crumbled. "This is the fault of the militarist bloc," accused the Zephyrian emissary, its energy form pulsing with angry red flares. "Your aggressive posturing drove the humans away." The Syrian commander's mandibles clicked in furious denial. "Absurd! It was your condescension, your constant reminders of their inferior status. Humans may be young, but they have pride." The Waterfolk delegation failed to stress the importance of their medical contributions, interjected the crystalline representative, its facets flashing accusatory patterns. "And your people failed to acknowledge their crucial role in mining operations," countered the aquatic ambassador, water bubbling angrily in its containment suit. The accusations flew back and forth across the chamber, echoing off the crystal walls as centuries of hidden resentments and power struggles erupted into open conflict. The unified front of the Galactic Council, maintained for 3 millennia, fractured in less than 3 days after humanity's departure. Over the following weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. 42 worlds formally declared independence from Council authority, reaching out directly to Earth for new terms of engagement. It was a development that shocked the Council to its foundations. Never before had member worlds dared to break away. "This is unprecedented," the Zephyrian emissary whispered during an emergency session. "How have the humans inspired such disloyalty?" "They offered respect," replied the representative from Tidal Prime, a world that had just announced its independence. "They treated us as equals, not subjects. When was the last time any of you asked what we needed, instead of telling us what you would take?" The ripple effects continued. Production networks faltered. Medical systems struggled without human expertise. And interstellar transportation slowed to a crawl as navigation systems lost precision without human-designed updates. Meanwhile, humanity was building its own future. On Luna Station, Dr. Susan Miller stood before a packed audience of scientists and dignitaries, her expression triumphant. Today, I'm pleased to announce the successful deployment of the Independent Quantum Communication Network. This system, developed entirely by Earth scientists, provides instantaneous communication across tested distances of up to 8,000 light-years, without reliance on any council infrastructure. The audience erupted in applause. Behind Dr. Miller, a holographic display showed the new network spreading like a web across star systems, connecting Earth directly to dozens of former council worlds. Additionally, she continued when the applause subsided, we've made this technology available to all our new partners under the Liberty Accords, with no extraction fees, no technology transfer restrictions, and no political conditions beyond mutual defense. On Liberty's edge, a harsh desert planet, previously deemed unsuitable for agriculture, Tony Garcia stood in the midst of a field of swaying golden grain. The crops stretched to the horizon, thriving despite the planet's minimal rainfall and thin atmosphere. The secret wasn't forcing Earth plants to grow here, he explained to the visiting delegation from 7 formerly council-dependent agricultural worlds. It was understanding the native soil biology and working with it rather than against it. He knelt, scooping up a handful of the reddish soil. Council agricultural doctrine insisted on replacing native soils with imported growing medium. We instead modified our crops to thrive in partnership with the indigenous microorganisms. The result is sustainable agriculture that requires 90% less water and 60% less fertilizer. The delegates moved through the fields in wonder, touching the healthy plants that grew in soil previously declared dead by council experts. We will share all our techniques, Tony promised. No patents, no proprietary restrictions, just fair trade for whatever your worlds produce naturally. In the depths of space, Rear Admiral Christina Adams commanded humanity's humanitarian fleet, 12 hospital ships and 20 supply vessels, as they responded to a distress call from gentlefolk, a species so physically fragile they had been deemed unsuitable for significant roles by the Council. We thank you for coming. The gentlefolk ambassador's whisper-thin voice barely registered on the ship's communication system. The Council ignored our plea. They said our world was too far from established routes to justify emergency response. Admiral Adams nodded sympathetically. We came as soon as we received your message. Our medical teams are prepared for your specific biology, and we've brought enough supplies to sustain your population through the crisis. What payment do you require? The ambassador asked hesitantly. None, Adams replied. This is humanitarian assistance, freely given. When your people recover, we hope you'll consider joining the Liberty Accords as equal partners. But that decision is yours alone. The news of humanity's generosity spread quickly to other marginalized worlds. The quiet ones, a species of sound-sensitive beings who communicated primarily through light patterns. The deep dwellers of Oceania, whose underwater civilization had been deemed too alien for meaningful engagement. And the silicon mines of Taurus Prime, whose crystalline-based consciousness had been dismissed as insufficiently sapient, all reached out to Earth with cautious hope. As these alliances formed, the old Galactic Council continued its descent into chaos. You must convince the humans to return, the Zephyrian emissary pleaded during a private meeting with Jake Morrison, now officially appointed as Earth's ambassador to independent worlds. The Council is prepared to offer concessions. Jake raised an eyebrow. Concessions? 3 weeks ago, you wouldn't even consider equal voting rights. What's changed? The Zephyrian's energy form dimmed slightly, a sign of embarrassment in its species. Circumstances have evolved. The Council recognizes that perhaps we underestimated humanity's contributions to galactic stability. I see, Jake replied, maintaining a neutral expression despite his inner satisfaction. And what concessions does the council offer? A permanent seat on the inner circle, reduced extraction rates on human innovations, only 20% instead of 60, priority resource access on 12 council worlds. Jake leaned back in his chair. No longer the simple metal seat of council chambers, but a comfortable, dignified office in Earth's new embassy on Independent Station. That would have been a generous offer 3 years ago. Now, it's insufficient. What do you want? The Zephyrian's frustration caused its energy form to spike erratically. Nothing from the council, Jake said simply. Earth has moved on. We're building something new, a partnership of equals rather than a hierarchy of masters and servants. You cannot possibly hope to replace 3,000 years of established order. Jake smiled. We already have. 42 former council worlds have joined the Liberty Accords. 17 more have applications pending. Your established order is crumbling because it was built on exploitation rather than cooperation. The Zephyrian departed without further argument. Its energy form dimmed to a barely visible flicker. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Mechanicus, the robots formally requested Zara Thompson's return, offering unprecedented autonomy for human engineers. She declined, but arranged for knowledge transfer to independent robot worlds that had broken from Mechanicus control. The Cultivation Council of Harvest Moon 7 managed to stabilize their crops through frantic efforts, but lost 40% of their harvest. They approached Captain Ben Rodriguez with offers of partnership. He agreed to send an agricultural advisory team to the newly independent farming collectives that had overthrown the photosynthetic administrators, not to the council representatives. One by one, the support structures of the old council either collapsed or transformed into new, more equitable arrangements. The galaxy was reorganizing itself along lines that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. On Independent Station, construction teams worked around the clock to complete the Liberty Alliance Hall. Unlike the hierarchical design of the council chambers, this new meeting place featured a circular arrangement where all representatives sat at the same level. The decorations incorporated cultural elements from hundreds of species, celebrating diversity rather than emphasizing status. Jake Morrison stood at the center of the nearly completed hall, surveying the work with satisfaction. Captain Lisa Martinez joined him, her expression thoughtful. "Did you ever imagine it would come to this when you walked out of the council chamber?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "Honestly, I expected us to negotiate our way back in with better terms. I never dreamed we'd end up creating an entirely new galactic order." "The council underestimated humanity's resolve," Lisa observed, "and our capacity to build bridges instead of walls." "They underestimated everyone, not just us," Jake replied. "They treated dozens of species as inferiors for centuries. All those worlds needed was someone to show that there was another way." Around them, representatives from over 200 worlds moved through the hall, inspecting their delegation areas and engaging in animated conversations. Species that had barely interacted under council rule now formed working groups and cultural exchanges, discovering commonalities that transcended their physical differences. "Ambassador Morrison," called a melodic voice. A representative of the Quiet Ones approached, their light patterns shimmering with what Jake had learned to recognize as enthusiasm. "The communication adaptation systems are functioning perfectly. For the first time, our people can participate fully in galactic discourse." "I'm glad to hear it," Jake replied. Dr. Miller's team was determined to ensure that every species could contribute their unique perspective. In the 2 years following humanity's withdrawal from the Council, a new galactic order took shape. The Liberty Alliance, as it came to be known, established principles of equal representation, technological sharing, and mutual defense. Species that had been marginalized under Council rule found their contributions valued and their needs addressed. The Liberty Fleet, comprised of ships from 47 different species, including Earth, patrolled the borders of Alliance space, not to conquer, but to protect. Joint scientific missions explored previously neglected regions of the galaxy, discovering wonders that the Council had deemed not commercially viable for investigation. Trade flourished under new protocols that emphasized fair exchange rather than extraction. Medical technologies reached worlds that had been denied access under Council restrictions. Agricultural innovations transformed planets previously dependent on food imports into self-sufficient producers. 2 years to the day after humanity walked out of the Council chamber, President Diana Foster stood before the first Galactic Liberty Summit. Representatives from 327 worlds filled the Liberty Alliance Hall, their diversity a testament to the new order's inclusive approach. Friends, allies, partners, Foster began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall through translation systems tailored to each species' communication methods. 2 years ago, humanity made a difficult choice, to stand alone rather than kneel together. We did not know then that so many would stand with us. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. Today, we formalize what has already been built through our collective efforts. The Galactic Liberty Alliance is not a replacement for the old Council. It is something entirely new. We come together not as rulers and subjects, but as equals with unique contributions to offer. She gestured to the holographic display above, where the symbol of the Alliance, a spiral galaxy with hundreds of stars, highlighted in gold, rotated slowly. Each star in our symbol represents a world that has chosen freedom and cooperation. There is room for many more. Even now, our door remains open to those Council worlds that wish to join us as equals, including the founding species who once thought themselves our superiors. President Foster's expression softened as she continued. We did not come to dominate the stars, but to share in their wonders together. Our strength lies not in power over others, but in the power we create together. As her words echoed through the hall, the massive viewports along the wall revealed the gathering of the Alliance fleet, ships of every size and design, representing dozens of species, moving in perfect harmony against the backdrop of stars. Let this be the beginning of a new era, one where no species is deemed too young, too different, or too alien to contribute. One where we explore not just the outer reaches of our galaxy, but the depths of understanding between diverse minds. The applause that followed, expressed through sound, light, vibration, and a dozen other forms of communication, unified the diverse gathering in a moment of shared purpose and hope. Outside the hall, beyond the viewports, more ships arrived every day, some from former Council worlds seeking new alliances, others from distant regions of the galaxy drawn by tales of a new order based on respect rather than domination. The galaxy was changing. The old hierarchies were giving way to new partnerships, and it had all begun with a simple act of dignity, the moment when humanity decided that standing alone was better than kneeling together. As Jake Morrison watched President Foster conclude her address, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here, the risks they had taken, the allies they had found in unexpected places, the future they were building together. The Galactic Council had believed that humans were too young, too impulsive, and too proud to play by rules designed to keep them subservient. They had been right about one thing. Humanity was indeed proud. But it was that very pride, the unwillingness to accept second-class status, that had transformed the galaxy. Jake glanced at the empty seats reserved for Council representatives, an open invitation should they choose to join as equals. Some already had. Others would follow, eventually. The laws of mutual benefit were more powerful than the traditions of hierarchy. Beyond the station, the stars beckoned, not as conquests to be claimed or resources to be exploited, but as shared wonders to be explored together. A future of liberty, equality, and cooperation stretched before them, limited only by their collective imagination. The Liberty Alliance had begun as humanity's refusal to kneel. It had become the galaxy's opportunity to stand together. And that was just the beginning. On the outskirts of known space, the Liberty exploration vessel, New Horizon, moved steadily toward regions no council ship had ever visited. Its crew, a mix of humans, quiet ones, gentlefolk, and a dozen other species, worked in perfect harmony, each contributing unique perspectives and abilities. Captain Sam Parker, brother of the mining foreman who had walked away from Kepler 442b, stood on the bridge, watching as sensors detected signs of an entirely new civilization ahead. "Shall we make contact, Captain?" asked his gentlefolk navigation officer, voice barely above a whisper. Parker smiled. "Yes. Let's introduce ourselves, not as conquerors or masters, but as travelers seeking friendship and knowledge." As the ship adjusted course, the crew prepared for humanity's newest role in the galaxy. Not warriors, not servants, but bridges between worlds that had yet to discover their shared potential. The cycle of dominance and submission that had defined galactic politics for millennia had been broken. In its place grew something unprecedented, a community of equals, bound by mutual respect and common purpose. It had all begun with the courage to walk away. And now the courage to reach out,